I watched 28 movies at the Sundance Film Festival this year. Here are my favorites. Hey everyone, it's David Chen. I talk about movies, TV, tech, and the media, and I recently had the opportunity to attend the Sundance Film Festival. I have not been at Sundance in over 10 years, and wow, what an amazing experience. Got to see a bunch of great movies at world premieres with Q&As with the cast and the director. I got to meet some TikTokers and some of my podcast co-hosts for the first time, and I also got to watch a lot of great movies. I would say overall my hit rate was pretty good. About like 80% of the movies I saw were movies that were at least decent, if not better. And that's actually not bad for a film festival. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to count down my top 5 movies that I saw. These are the movies I think people will be talking about for the rest of the year. And the reason I'm making this video is so if you see one of these movies, you'll know to check it out, whether it's in a theater or on a streaming service. Now, I know most people won't have seen most of these films, so I'm going to keep it light on the plot details, and there will be, of course, no spoilers. Let's get into the list. My number 5 movie, Thelma. Thelma stars June Squibb, who plays 93-year-old Thelma Post, who is ripped off via a phone scam. She vows revenge, and the movie is basically an action movie with a 93-year-old woman as its protagonist. It's like if Tom Cruise was really old and made Mission Impossible movies. Wait a second. Anyway, what's great about Thelma is it's funny, it has this amazing cast, but it's also about what it means to age. What does it mean to get older? What does it mean to depend on people more? It's a wonderful meditation on that idea. It's also just a real crowd pleaser. June Squibb is awesome in the movie. She apparently did all of her own stunts. And I think it's just delightful and it's a lot of fun. And I think basically anyone can watch this movie and have a good time. So that's my number 5. Thelma. My number 4 film of the Sundance Film Festival is Didi. I had a chance to see Didi at its world premiere, and I was really moved by the speech the director gave introducing the film. Here's a clip from his intro.
This movie was inspired by a lot of the coming-of-age classics that I love, movies about the 13-year-old adolescent experience, like Stand By Me, 8th Grade, Ratcatcher, The Sandlot, This Is England. The list goes on, but you know, I love those movies so much. I see a version of myself in those movies, and but even though I don't demographically align with any of their protagonists or their lead characters, and I realized that in all of those types of movies that I love, I've never seen, you know, a movie that starred someone that looked like me or me and my friends, and so I thought we should try to write it and make it. And so just as, you know, I see myself in those movies, I hope that you guys can see a version of yourself, your lives, your childhoods, reflected in our movie about a 13-year-old Taiwanese-American boy set in the late 2000s in the Bay Area. This movie is really a love letter to my friends, my family, my hometown.
Now, I just want to say, Didi is a movie that feels like it's genetically engineered to appeal to me specifically. It's about a Taiwanese-American content creator growing up in the 90s. I mean, it definitely checks a lot of my boxes. The plot of Didi is pretty standard coming-of-age movie stuff, but what I think really elevates this movie is how it's able to capture the texture of what it is like to be in an Asian American household. If you're Asian American, you might have sensed growing up that like the way your parents and you talk might be a little bit different than in other households. And I think Didi is able to capture like the detail, the emotion, the intensity, or lack thereof, really effectively. The movie is also really great at capturing what it was like to be growing up in the 90s, using AIM, putting up away messages, poking people on Facebook. Boy, it was actually a really terrible time, wasn't it? Anyway, check out Didi if you have the chance. It doesn't have distribution yet, but I anticipate it will soon. It just won an audience award at Sundance. My number 3 film of the 2024 Sundance Film Festival was Ghostlight. This movie was such a surprise. It was not a movie that I'd even heard of before. It's kind of one of those special experiences where you see a bunch of under-the-radar actors who are like really talented come together and make something really interesting. Ghostlight is about a construction worker who joins a local production of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet as a way of getting in touch with his feelings. What's so great about this movie is the cast. Keep Kupferer plays the construction worker, and Dolly De Leon, who was in The Triangle of Sadness, she's also in this movie as a member of this dramatic troupe that's putting on the Shakespeare show. They have this wonderful dynamic, but what I love about Ghostlight is how it makes Shakespeare beautiful. I'm a big fan of Shakespeare, one of the greatest, but his work can often be inaccessible to modern audiences. I think it takes real skill to write a script and craft performances that bring Shakespeare to life and makes his work relevant in a big way, and I think Ghostlight does just that. I honestly believe you will not think of Romeo and Juliet in the same way after you watch Ghostlight. Ghostlight was acquired by IFC Films, and so you will probably be able to watch it in the next year or two. My number 2 film of the Sundance Film Festival was Skywalkers: A Love Story. Skywalkers: A Love Story is like Free Solo, but with more skyscrapers and illegal activity and romance. So there's this sport out there called rooftopping, where people will climb to the top of really tall structures and take photos of themselves to create art. It's extremely dangerous, it's extremely illegal, and Skywalker's Love Story tells the story of 2 rooftoppers who fell in love and started making art together. So you have this thrill of discovering this subculture of rooftoppers and also following along the romantic journey of these 2 people who are extremely good at it. The movie chronicles some of their attempts at climbing tall things, and honestly it feels like a heist movie. The director of this movie, Jeff Zimbel, has put together 200 hours of footage to create this movie, and the results are really propulsive. It's really irresistible. You just want to see what happens at the end of this movie. And of course, you're dazzled the whole time by all the footage that you're seeing. I thought this movie was a blast from beginning to end. I had a lot of fun. I think a lot of people will as well. Skywalkers is acquired by Netflix, and it's probably going to be available sometime in the next year to watch. And finally, my number 1 film of the 2024 Sundance Film Festival is called It's What's Inside. There's a bunch of stuff I want to say about this movie, but there's also a bunch of stuff I can't say. It's What's Inside tells the story of a bunch of friends getting together for a pre-wedding celebration when all of a sudden an estranged friend shows up with a mysterious suitcase. What the suitcase does or what happens afterwards, I'm not going to talk about in this video, but suffice to say, hijinks ensue. This is a movie that almost wasn't on my radar because the description of the plot was so vague in the Sundance booklet, and that's by design. I attended the world premiere of this movie. It was such a thrill to watch It's What's Inside with the cast and the director and see something that was so fun, so creative, so inventive. The director and the publicists of this movie are telling people not to give away the premise beyond what I've already said. I think it's going to be hard to keep that under wraps as the year goes on, but I'm going to honor their request and just say that I thought this movie was amazing. If I had to describe it, it's like a cross between Talk to Me and Ready or Not and Bodies, 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 but in the style of a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Lots of rapid edits, interesting lighting, split screen, every trick in the cinematic toolbox to keep the audience engaged and putting them into the subjective perspective of the characters in the movie. The writer-director of this movie is Greg Jardin. This is his first movie. I think he's going to have a long career in the industry making awesome movies if people are able to see this one, which I think they will because it was acquired by Netflix for a massive sum of money. Honestly, this reminded me of Sundance movies like Memento or Brick or Whiplash, where you're watching it and you feel like, wow, I am watching a talent being born on the world stage, and it is gonna be amazing. So that was my number 1 film of the festival. It's What's Inside. I can't wait for everyone to see it. Again, it'll probably be out on Netflix in the next year or two. It's going to blow everyone away, I believe. All right, that's my top 5. I'm curious if anyone else was at Sundance, what your favorite movies of the festival were. Feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm also going to bring up a few other movies that I saw, but before I do that, I want to give a shout out to my newsletter, Decoding Everything, at decodingeverything.com. It's free, subscribe. I wrote about all my Sundance adventures there, so if you want to read more of my thoughts on the movies of Sundance, check out decodingeverything.com. All right, let me talk about a few other movies I saw at the Sundance Film Festival that I would also recommend. I'm going to make this really quick. Sasquatch Sunset, really interesting movie, great performances. The movie Ibelin, a great documentary about the power of video games, also going to be on Netflix at some point. Presence, Steven Soderbergh's latest film. It's a ghost story from the first-person perspective of the ghost. Interesting stuff. Love Steven Soderbergh experimenting with the form. It's going to be cool when it comes out at some point in the next year or two. Kneecap, which was acquired by Sony Pictures Classics. Really cool movie about a group of rappers trying to keep the Irish language alive. Love the message, love the style of this movie. Daughters, a very powerful documentary about a prison program that allows fathers to have a daddy-daughter date. It's a real moving one. Be ready to be sad, be ready to be moved. The movie's Daughters. Every Little Thing is a documentary about a woman that rehabs hummingbirds, and you will never be more invested in the lives of hummingbirds than when watching this movie. I thought it's great. It's a crowd pleaser. Every Little Thing. And finally, A Real Pain. This is Jesse Eisenberg's next film. It stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. They play cousins who go to Poland to do a Holocaust tour to honor their recently passed grandmother. Great performances. It's a road movie where you get to see these characters' dynamics develop, and I think people will really enjoy this one as well. All right, that's going to do it for me. Those are my favorite films from Sundance. Let me know what favorite films you had from Sundance or what movies you're looking forward to. I want to give a big shout out to my patrons at patreon.com/Dave Chen for making my trip possible and for making this video and all my newsletter stuff possible. Patreon.com/Dave Chen if you want to support my work. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.